TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes, to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Rattlegion Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Rattledge. And tonight, our favorite show is Survivor Series, a Thanksgiving tradition. Best of the best. Undertaker 30, Undertaker's final farewell, and other taglines. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Rattledge, and I am joined by the Podsmen. Ladies and gentlemen, first, from the Superblog team-up, Mr. Chris Bailey. How do you do, sir?
I have emerged from the bottom of the ocean, frozen, and actually back to civilization and ready to podcast with the Podsmen, talking about the final end of The Undertaker's career. And boy, I can't wait. I got lots to say, brother.
All right. And taking a break from dropping daily podcast about those dirty muties, ladies and gentlemen, from the Cosmic Treadmill and X-Lapsed and whatever the hell else he's doing these days, and my favorite guest on the Source Material Live podcast, ladies and gentlemen, it's Chris Sheehan. How do you do, sir?
Hey, what's happening? Hey, I got some news about the old Chris and Reggie site.
Oh,
We
yeah?
broke 100,000 downloads yesterday.
Good for you.
Which,
Congratulations.
Awesome,
Knocked
man.
my socks off, yes. Of course, in a far better timeline, there'd be a bigger celebration with my buddy. But hey, it made his mom smile when I told her that when I shared it on Facebook. So that's a good thing to me. But other than that, I'm ready to talk Survivor Series. I'm glad I got here in time. I had to take the in-laws' dog to the vet, and you never know how long you're going to be stuck at a vet. So got here with
Chris,
5 minutes to
Did the
spare.
dog get the return? Did it survive?
Oh yes.
Oh,
The dog is okay. Got some blood work done, so we're just waiting on some results. That out here in the desert, we have something called valley fever, which it's like a fungus in the soil out here that they say everybody gets, like human, canine, equine, everything gets this thing. It's just a matter of how long it takes up residence in your body and how you deal with it. So we think, or the doctor thinks that maybe the dog has valley fever, which is treatable. It just can be stubborn. So we're just going to play it by ear and keep our fingers crossed.
Alrighty. Well, I'm glad your dog's okay. So let's talk about a couple of things setting up this Survivor Series 2020 show. Number one, this is yet another year of brand supremacy, which means a bunch of cold angles and colder matches just kind of thrown together because this person happened to have a belt at this time. And, I miss the old days. Here's where I'm going to be the old man yelling at the clouds. But I miss the old days of Survivor Series where everyone, had feuds and they would team up and, have joint feuds against each other. And it not just be guys wearing different colored T-shirts, and that's
With
your
different
matches.
stations on the back now.
Yes, that's
Yep,
right. It was
exactly.
Fox versus USA.
And it's funny. I've been catching up on the Pritchard show. I haven't listened to the Pritchard show in a long time, and I started catching up because I had a lot of busy work to do for the day job, and I needed something in my ear, so I had that on. And he railed on against the remember the wild card match from 1995, where it was like heels and baby faces on the same team. It was a random thing. He blamed it all on Bill Watts trying to do something silly, but I thought that was a really, really fun match because it was so different from the regular, all good guys against all bad guys. You had like Shawn Michaels teaming up with Sid and all this weird stuff. And Pritchard was saying, well, there's no point for this. There's no reason for this. This makes no sense. And he was railing against it. And I'm like, isn't that what we're going into with people like – we just had a draft. So now all of a sudden AJ Styles is very show-triotic. He's really, really
Oh my God, you took the words out of my
being on
mouth.
Raw.
You took the words right out of my mouth, but I was thinking Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins has been on
Rollins
Raw
is sudden. Exactly.
since 1983. And
Yes, at the very least.
And now suddenly he's Team SmackDown, and we'll talk about like his match in just a minute and what he did, which makes it a little less stupid, and maybe some might argue even more stupid. But either way, it's like we just had a draft. No one's had time to have any kind of brand loyalty.
Yeah.
And so, like, it made sense when people were solidified in their brand and they were like super competitive. But like Raw at this point is competitive with La Femme Nikita. I don't like it. No one's watching. Come on, guys, help me here.
That's a callback, brother.
There we go. I mean, like, no one ever watches Raw, and I guess they're happy with SmackDown's ratings on Fox. But that's what they're competing against is whatever else is on television during those particular time slots.
Better Call Saul rerun.
When they first did the draft back in 1812, they like people were really the wrestlers. And they've talked about this on like the Attitude, not the Attitude Era, whatever 4-part documentary we did.
Ruthless.
Yeah, Ruthless Aggression. Thank you. They talked about it on Ruthless Aggression. Like people really bought into the brand supremacy thing. So if they did like Survivor Series brand supremacy matches, it kind of made sense, and you kind of bought into it because at least at that time there was literal like brand loyalty.
They
now
stopped the landing. Yeah, we had like Shawn Michaels showing up on SmackDown to confront Kurt Angle, and it felt like a big deal because he doesn't belong there. When now it's like Drew McIntyre's music can kick off on any show, NXT, Raw, or SmackDown, 205 Live, I don't give a shit. And it would be like, oh, Drew McIntyre's here. It doesn't matter.
We're not that far removed from the wild card rule. Remember the week they did that?
It's the exact same
thing. Yep.
So, like this, and last year was different. Last year they treated NXT like it was the NWO, and they were like throwing people through tables, and Shayna Baszler was beating the shit out of everyone that got in her way, and it felt like Triple H was like trying to like take over the company. Like that was exciting. Then they really gave NXT a premier slot and put that brand over. And it looked great. And like that was the first time in ages I was excited about Survivor Series. And this year everyone got COVID.
Did they snuff that fire, Mark?
Yeah, everyone got COVID this year. So they weren't allowed. Like, go get COVID over at the Capitol Wrestling Center. Stay away from the Amway, is what they were told.
They couldn't put 15 people around a ring. It just couldn't happen.
No. So no NXT this year, and so it was again, and we're back where we started. It's like, who's got belts? Okay, you guys fight each other, and we'll take the top 5 people on Raw and the top 5 people on SmackDown that don't have belts, and we'll put them in a match together, and then we'll have Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, and that's Survivor Series. Enjoy. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, in a very long-winded, winding, topsy-turvy way, I was not excited about this show. They didn't give me a reason to be excited, and it just seemed like, it's November, so it's Survivor Series, so we got to do 5-on-5 matches and title versus title matches, and tomorrow we'll move on to damaging furniture because December is TLC.
I get the feeling that someone in that writing room doesn't get the original idea behind the Survivor Series. I mean, like you said, Mark, something is missing. I mean, you've gone to brand warfare, which is par for the course. I mean, we've had that for several years now, so we're sort of used to it. We know what to expect when we're moving into November and Survivor Series, month. We know that people are going to appear from other brands, blah, 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 blah. But the entire, the old school Survivor Series, you built teams. So you had the 4x4s against the Visionaries, and, you had a semblance of groups. Now, they might be like Colonel Mustafa and Big Bully Busick and the Viking. But, at least there were a team, and those teams fought to be, and being the sole survivor actually meant something. Now, did it go past Survivor Series? No, but you had that little bit of a bragging right the next night. Now, Raw sort of had that. If you watch Raw this week, right after Survivor Series, they sort of actually for the first time continued on with a little bit of a celebration and had consequence, which actually meant something. So, I was disappointed not to see NXT there, but it's pretty clear that people who are writing right now have never watched anything beyond 1999 when it comes to Survivor Series.
In 1987, Hulk Hogan picked up Andre the Giant and hip tossed him. They called it a body slam, but we all know what it was. He dropped the big leg, and he retained the title.
Yes.
And then those two didn't touch each other again until November, when they were on opposing Survivor Series teams. That was the big hook.
And they boiled to it. That whole match, they boiled to the point where they'd both be in the ring together. I mean, yeah, they did it right.
And then they really didn't give it to you because,
Nope.
Andre went on a tear and basically destroyed everybody else on the other side of the team.
Yep. That's the way Survivor Series used to be.
Then he gave Bam Bam Bigelow the worst hip toss in the world to win the match.
Oh, poor Andre. All right. All right, the clouds have been properly yelled at. We all get it. We it's funny, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this, because they've, I'm all about running the WWE like a business and a machine. I am a capitalist at heart. I understand, and if you knew how I did my job and the way that I've boiled it down, I'm the first person to promote mechanics and robotics. Just do it this way and do it that way.
Automation.
Automation, the same way every single time. And I get that even in creative places like movies and wrestling, but you still have to have an semblance of a hook, of a narrative, of drama, even within the automation. So, I get, January's Royal Rumble, February is and then the Money in the Bank and Hell in the Cell. That, okay, but you then have to be creative about how you're going to get to those places, even though they're there because that's the month it happens to be on the calendar.
It's not organic, but they're not making any effort into making it look organic.
Right.
Where they should. They really should. We know it's coming, just like you said, but it's as though that's just enough now. It's okay, February, get the chamber up. It's
yeah.
As soon as I saw the ad for TLC, I was part of my stomach turned. I was ugh. Do not want.
Suddenly, people who have never used ladders before are going to start pulling ladders out from under the ring for the next few weeks.
So
somebody should have been eliminated via chair shot to the head. You know what I mean?
Just to set it up.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, on the kickoff, there was a battle royal. This was the everyone gets a paycheck participant trophy battle royal. And they gave Dominic Mysterio a big push, but the Miz, playing the part of Jerry the King Lawler, hid underneath the ring, and then when Dominic thought he won, he eliminated him last, thereby making Dominic look like a dope, and the Miz looked like Jerry the King Lawler. Bailey.
The Miz won the Haystacks Calhoun Memorial Battle
Royal.
Bailey, anything about the Battle Royal?
Oh, yeah. So, listen, it's clear that there's a little bit of a push going on with Dominic. I really do like the kid. He looks a little bit young, and he reminds me of Rey Mysterio with 10-pound weights dragging around his heels.
He has inmate rape face. He really does.
No.
He's just he looks awfully cute. He looks like the kind of guy that's going to get surrounded in a shower because he's adorable looking.
He looks sweet.
He does.
So, my question is, where do we go with the Miz? What is their end game here going on with this guy? He's got the Money in the Bank. They just gave him the Battle Royal win for no particular reason whatsoever. And where do you see him cashing in? When, how, who, where, what, why?
Well, I
would have guessed tonight, but it didn't.
I would have too.
No, they might save that for TLC, where we'll get Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton TLC because why not?
Listen, Mark, tell me you wouldn't have loved this. So the Big Chief knocks out Drew McIntyre, wins, walks up the ramp, and then the Miz music comes on, and we see Drew McIntyre, or McInfart as he's known on Raw. That actually happened, by the way. I'll get into that a little bit later. The Miz cashes in on Drew McInfart to win the belt at the end. And having two losses back-to-back. That would have been incredible for Drew's career.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think either the TLC or the Royal Rumble will have the Miz cash in, and we'll probably build to like Drew McIntyre versus The Miz at WrestleMania.
Ooh, so the joke there was Adam Pearce accidentally introduced Drew McIntyre as Drew McInfart on Raw. It happened.
Nice, well done. All right, so that was Sheehan. Any thoughts about the Battle Royal?
No.
Good.
It
All
was
right.
a thing.
Yes, it was. All right, Team Raw, which consisted of AJ Styles, who, when compared to everybody else on this team, looked 3 feet tall. Busy Tights Keith Lee, Sheamus, who was just on SmackDown, Braun Strowman, who was just on SmackDown, and Matt Riddle, who was just on SmackDown.
And AJ was too. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, right. I couldn't get over how small he was compared to everybody else. Like my wife watched the first hour or so of Survivor Series with me, and she's like, "Who's the midget in there with Keith Lee and all them?" And I'm like, "That's AJ Styles."
with the soccer mom haircut.
Is that the child that won the tag team titles with Braun Strowman? They brought that kid back. We love you, AJ. Yep. Versus Team SmackDown, Kevin Owens, who has at least been on SmackDown for a while, Jey Uso, King Corbin, who's been on SmackDown for a while, Seth Rollins, who was just on Raw, and Otis, who is getting a singles push because Vince McMahon likes fat guys.
They eat a lot.
So this whole thing. This whole 20-minute match was a big setup for Jey Uso to try to prove his worth, prove his mettle later on in the evening. That's it. That was the whole point of this match.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was a little long. I liked, we're ragging on Otis, but I thought he had a really good spotlight on him during the middle part of the match here, where he was just throwing motherfuckers. I mean, he overhead suplexed Keith Lee. It's like, damn, that looked pretty cool. I totally missed Rollins getting knocked out. I guess did he surrender himself or something? Did he martyr himself?
He knelt before Zod, and Sheamus kicked him in the head.
There you go.
He said, "Do your job," and they knocked him out.
Oh, okay. That's a good use for Seth Rollins. It might be the best use for Seth Rollins. But, yeah, it set up. It definitely foreshadowed what we're going to see later on in the night. So it worked, and I was surprised to see a clean sweep, but I guess with what's happened on Raw, it kind of makes sense that they're kind of playing off that. So, yeah, it was a match. It was fine. Didn't feel any stakes going into it. Didn't, especially, as we just pointed out here, everybody on the Raw team except one has been on SmackDown for years or months, I guess. It's just no reason to. It's just there's nothing to invest in. It's just like, okay, well, you're gonna pick the blue shirt or the red shirt, and that's it. We're just rooting for colored T-shirts now. So, yeah, it was a thing.
Bailey?
You had the basis of the entire match. Like, who do you cheer for? Like, obviously, if you like Raw, you'll cheer for Team Raw. But, there's so many unlikable people on both sides of the fence that
True.
This is not a match where you can invest in as a heel face type of fan. So
No, this is not the Warrior. This is not the Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warrior, and Kerry Von Erich.
That's what I mean. Like, back in the day, and here we go again, the old men in the yard. Back in the day, you had clearly defined heel and face teams, and that sort of worked because you had a reason to cheer and to boo. Here it's just a collection of assholes that. So think about it. I mean, the reason why Otis had such a pop is that people were sick and tired of seeing these guys run roughshod over everybody. Yeah. And Otis gets in the ring, and there's a magic moment in this match where he looks at Braun Strowman, and Otis is after throwing bodies around like crazy. I mean, he's got just like he's a human wrecking machine in there, just destroying people. And for that one moment, you're looking at Otis, and you're like, "Holy crap! There's something here with this guy." And of course, he ended up losing via power slam to Strowman. But man, that was the one bit of magic that was in this entire match. Outside of that, this was the Jey Uso show, and I really like the direction that they're going with that guy. You talk about a guy whose stock has been elevated. Uso definitely has, gone up several notches. So I don't know what's ever going to happen when Jimmy, officially comes back and we see where the Usos fit. But, man, they're really doing a great job building this. And funny thing, they didn't do your typical booking where, Jey Uso had to fight from the bottom, which would have been interesting. I mean, at least knock off a couple people, you know what I mean? Take out stupid Sheamus or some person that I really, really hate. And by the way, does anyone really care about Sheamus? Does anyone care about any program the man is in? Why is he on my TV? Someone tell me. Dean, Mark, I don't know. Why?
I don't know. He's been there a while. He's not injured and he hasn't hurt anyone. Wait. I'm sorry. Hang on. I think the reason why I can't remember where I heard this from, but apparently he's like Triple H's workout buddy.
Yes, he is. Yeah,
that's
tasty
the
white
rumor,
workout buddy.
I remember when he came down to the ring and Michael Cole or whoever was doing the announcing was saying like, "This is Sheamus's 47th Survivor Series match." What the hell is going on?
It felt like every one of those too.
It's true.
All right. Our next match featured the Greek Chorus versus the Minstrels.
I'm going to fight you on this. This was actually good.
I'm not saying the match was bad, but I'm sorry. The Street Profits have the most unwieldy and ridiculous and tangential promos I've ever seen. They basically, it's like, and now we're going to go to the Street Profits. Hear me now as we tell you what we've already seen. That's a whole Street Profits promo right there. Them summing up what we've just watched. That's why they're the Greek Chorus. And it wasn't just this one time. Every time I hear the Street Profits talk, it's here's a rambling speech about everything you just saw. Here's 5 minutes of what we're going to do. And then 20 minutes of we want the smoke. That's the Street Profits.
They really built to it this time, didn't they?
You know what was cool about this promo, though? They had the promo, and they did exactly what you said. They went through their 90s VHS tape, Damon Wayans comedy spiel. And then all of a sudden, they got almost like a little bit deadly serious for the first time that I've ever seen out of these two clowns. And, they sort of rolled into, we want the smoke. But it was with a little bit of aggression. And I was like, oh, hold up here. What do we got going on?
They also sung a few verses of Sexy Boy.
Yeah, there's really no defending this. I don't even know why I'm trying.
And then I'm sorry, the New Day, they had Xavier Woods had to have had a conversation with these guys, like way off camera, like way away from everybody, going, Vince sees no value in black people except as like minstrel entertainers, right? They're like, yeah, we get it, but they pay us a lot, so we just deal with it. And like, okay, but like, what if we just leaned into that a lot? What if we took every like racist Vince McMahon black people bone in his body and just turned it up to 10? Well, that would probably work. I mean, I would have to do a lot of drugs to get over it, but I think Vince would love that, and we would do really well, and we would be featured on TV a lot. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put unicorn horns on. We're going to put on brightly colored clothes. We're going to throw pancakes, and we're going to be super stupid. Okay.
Sounds like
the New Day!
Sign me up.
And everything I just said happened.
It's true. But it was so nice
I have a mental image of the Revival doing this gimmick? I don't know why.
It was so nice seeing them together with Big E again after 2 weeks apart.
What the hell? What was that about?
So
Someone tell me.
Them back. Yeah. Oh, Big E must feel so good. It's like, it's been 2 weeks. Come on.
So it sounds like I hate all of these guys, and I hated this match, and nothing could be further from the truth. The Street Profits are probably one of the best tag teams out there in terms of pure athleticism. The New Day, they don't drop people on their heads. They always put on good matches. It's literally like the sizzle of this thing just annoys me to the core, but the steak is solid. Like, the Street Profits versus the New Day was a great wrestling match. I really enjoyed the match. I just hate that, camera on, match starts, awesome. Camera moves, match over, well, hello there! And it's like, ugh. We're the Street Profits and the New Day. We're setting Black Pride back at least a decade.
Oh boy, you're not wrong.
See, it's hard to say out loud, but I'm so right?
100%.
Yeah, I mean the match is fantastic. It was a lot of fun, even though it felt like it was a long match, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. And like you said, I mean, the athleticism on that Montez Ford is off the charts.
It doesn't even make sense. It's like, do you remember when you first saw Rob Van Dam and ECW do that frog splash, and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's like it goes against the laws of physics. Yeah.
It does. It's like he hangs. It's like he's suspended. Mm-hmm. And he just, it's unbelievable. What a talent that guy is.
Absolutely. And it looks like Dawkins lost a few pounds, so that's good. Because maybe he can move around a little bit better and keep up with his partner.
He looks less like Eddie Kingston now.
He looks what?
He looks less like Eddie Kingston now.
I don't know who that is.
Chris, Bailey gets it.
All he was missing was the Mitsuhara Masawa green and white tracksuit. That's all he needed.
Give it a week. I'm sure around March when it's St. Patrick's Day they'll come out in that green getup.
There you go.
That's bad.
But a great match. It was nice to see the Street Profits take the win here. Felt like maybe not so much a passing of the torch moment, but more of like a validation moment. Since these two teams are on separate shows, so they're not going to be crossing paths. Hopefully, they're not going to be crossing paths too often. So this felt like an anointment of the Street Profits as like the top guys on SmackDown. I really dug it.
Bailey, anything else?
I completely agree with Sheehan. I mean, you talk about this was the signature win, and I think that's what was missing from the smoke. I mean, these guys were really, really, really missing that. I mean, look at the stuff that they've been doing. Oh my goodness, it was all. When I say comedy wrestling, it just blows the mind. I mean, with the Viking Raiders, all that crap that they did for basically 6 months was just hideous. And now we finally got them in a match with their parallel universe version of each other. The New Day, and they get the big signature win over an established team. And I felt like it actually meant something. Like they actually showed some emotion at the end. The two teams bonded. Now, the question is, what the hell is the deal with Big E? So I know we said that, they only broke him up 2 weeks ago, and it looked like Big E was about to take a slant, like he was about to either dip his toes into the heel water or, strengthen up his face character or just be a solo character. Nope, he's right back in his Gears of War suit, dancing out, tossing pancakes. Oh, don't you dare be sour. You know what I mean? He was right back into the groove. Yep. And it seemed to set him back, but where did he disappear? If the New Day actually lost, wouldn't the right answer be to have Big E have something to do with that? You know what I mean? To actually cause them and have a little bit of dispute there. Because
I think they're saving Big E for a title face run against Big Chief.
Well, I agree, so but just a subtle little thing that you put in a video package, they could have done something there with Big E, just to show even disappointment or disgust that they lost or something. He didn't really have to do anything, but to me, that was a missed opportunity with Big E just to show, that slight little inkling. Like, you remember when the Rockers were breaking up before the barbershop window and you had that little bit of dissension where they were just, starting to lose ground with each other? I think they should have layered that in here, but missed opportunity.
Don't ask the writers at the WWE to think weeks ahead. That's a lot, man. I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
I'm surprised they left. They thought enough to keep Big E off the SmackDown team, knowing they were going to be swept. Like, they're trying to protect him a little bit. It's like, no, we don't want we can't have everybody get counted out, right? So
that's a good point.
They kept him off of the team so he wouldn't be drop a fall.
All right, let's move on to all 7 minutes and 50 seconds of Bobby Lashley having his way with Sami Zayn. Bobby Lashley beat the shit out of Sami Zayn.
Yep.
Because we had to have a U.S. title versus Intercontinental title match, and that's that. I have nothing else to say about this. I think I was, I don't know what I was doing during this. I wasn't paying that close attention to the mauling Sami Zayn got. It was like Sami Zayn came out, and I'm like, oh, look, it's Sami Zayn. You're going to die. And then that was the end of it. Bailey?
Man, there's really nothing to say. Sami Zayn looks like a Fidel Castro, cosplayer or something that lost a lot of weight all of a sudden. Like, he just looks completely completely like buffoonish in that ring. And I mean,
Yeah.
there was, the writing was on the wall who was going to win this one. But I mean, it was just a dominant win by, the Hurt Business. And Lashley looked great. But, does he really elevate himself beating Sami Zayn? No, he doesn't. This was just toss away filler in the middle of the card. I could have done without it. Nothing. All I will say is that I do enjoy the Hurt Business. So bonus on that, I guess.
Sheehan, what I liked, my favorite part of this match was when Sami Zayn wasn't wrestling. Like, when he was interacting with the Hurt Business.
Sure.
Like, don't you touch me, and Shelton Benjamin's just like, I'm just standing here. Like, that was the best part of the match for me.
I would agree. I mean, this match was nothing, and Sammy, he looks like your weed hookup at the end of like the dorm hallway. Now it's like he doesn't look like
there
an
you
athlete.
go, exactly.
He doesn't look like a professional wrestler. And standing next to Lashley is just like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I do appreciate the fact that Sammy did bring up the last time he feuded with Lashley and had that ridiculous thing where he brought his sisters out and mocked Lashley's military career or whatever. It's like, wow, they remember that. I wonder if Sammy was allowed to say that or allowed to remember it even. But so at least it was something. But the match was really, really nothing.
Our next match featured SmackDown's Women's Champion Sasha Banks versus Asuka. And if you're a fan of watching wrestling for years, you know that Sasha Banks is a dainty little thing who hurts herself and everybody she gets in the ring with. But she has a nice little body on her, so she gets pushed when Charlotte's not around. And then there's Asuka, who's the best women wrestler that they have, who just has the unfortunate handicap of not being able to speak English. Which is fine. They overcame that by making her speak gibberish Japanese, which is the most entertaining thing ever. So, like, even though it's a cold match with no heat behind it, no angle, no nothing, going into it, if you're a longtime fan, you know that this is going to be... And they did speak to this a little bit, like, can Sasha win a big one? Because she can always win the belt, but she can't retain it. And even though the belt wasn't on the line, and Asuka is the far superior wrestler, can Sasha Banks manage to get through this match and kayfabe beat the far superior wrestler, and non-kayfabe manage not to injure herself, Asuka, and the front row fans that are there virtually? That was the question going into this match. And I have to say that despite all of Sasha Banks' many, many physical handicaps in the ring, because she's a klutz and she hurts herself and everybody else, she did pretty good here. Like, this match against Asuka was actually really entertaining, and it wasn't just Asuka. Like, Sasha Banks actually did some pretty athletic things in this. It wasn't one of those, like, brutal, violent matches. It felt like a very flowing wrestling match. And a large part of that was Sasha being there for Asuka, doing these various catch-as-catch-can wrestling moves. So I actually really enjoyed this, and it was nice to see Sasha get a win over Asuka, who had a run of just tearing apart everybody that got in front of her for a long time. And and Asuka can take a loss and it not really affect her. So I really liked this match, Sheehan.
Oh yeah, this was a really, really good match. Surprisingly good. One thing I was thinking while we're watching this is that had they booked to this, like had this been a plan to make this into some sort of like a dream match or something, I think it could have been a pretty hot one. But I mean, then I'm remembering that Asuka and Sasha have been feuding, even being on different shows for like the entire summer. Because Asuka, it felt like every time Bayley or Sasha needed an opponent, it was like, oh, the surprise opponent is Asuka, no matter what show they're on. And we saw this match over and over and over again. And I do like that they played it where Sasha just kind of like eked the win out. It was just a pin reversal and a pin reversal and a pin reversal, because I didn't want it to be like she took the Hulk Hogan vitamins when she turned good. She turned babyface, so all of a sudden she's a much better wrestler. So I do like that they kept it to where this was a very competitive match. It wasn't like Sasha was suddenly hulked up and able to take on the world. But I still feel like we've seen this match too many damn times just in the past few months that you can't get excited for it. So even if it was really good, which it was, it could have been more.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a lot of money left on the table with these two, but again, this is why I started the show with they just did a show because it happened to be November,
It's
and
November.
so November's time for Survivor Series. Like, that. Unfortunately, that thread ran through nearly every single one of these matches. Bailey?
Absolutely.
Can you distinguish this match between any other match that they've actually had? Sheen is right on the money. I mean,
Well,
how
yeah,
many
Sasha
times
Banks
do
didn't
we-
hurt herself or Asuka in this one, or Kairi Sane
we
for that
know of.
matter.
And Bailey wasn't running around the ring screaming.
Sasha Banks got the old trigger knee, where it can just go out at you at any time. Whoa! Look at that! I busted up my knee back in the day with Asuka, and all of a sudden she's on the shelf again. You know what's coming. So this is the same old. Like, yeah, I did enjoy the match, but how many times can you watch the same match over and over? Do you remember back in the day when they used to have Savio Vega as the mystery man on every single card? This was the Savio Vega factor in full bloom. You're like, oh,
We got him
Jesus,
tonight,
I have to see
too.
this again. Yeah, you're like in the middle of Survivor Series. Speaking of Survivor Series, somebody is dropped out of the card, and you're like, who's going to be the mystery man? And then the fucking music came on, and it was Savio Vega again. You're like, oh, man. But anyway, bottom line, the match was good, but I'm sort of tired of the roly-poly ending. How about that? You know what I'm talking about? Like, you get there, and they exchange a few moves, you roll around, and all of a sudden somebody gets the pin. I think I'm done with that finish.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, the ladies taking the second to last spot on the card tonight, much to Jim Cornette's chagrin. We have Team Raw featuring Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, your current tag team champions, and apparently they've bullied the shit out of Lana. Like, I haven't been watching Raw, but I guess like 8 weeks times years in a row they put Lana through the announce table.
9 weeks. It's 9 weeks and 9 drops through a table from the exact same ending every week on Raw with Baszler and Nia Jax. Same deal every week.
Is it because her husband showed up on AEW wearing a Minnie Mouse T-shirt?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
This is punishment
for all her sins. And then Lacey Evans, she what is it? She's so what? I can't remember the phrase.
Traditional.
Now. She's so traditional. It's unconditional.
She's sassy.
And the ever hot Peyton Royce.
Yes,
versus
God hot plate.
Yes,
Woo.
ma'am. Then we have Team SmackDown. We have Bianca Belair, who's awesome. We have Ruby Riott. We have Liv Morgan. Team Captain Bailey. Bailey continues to be hilarious, by the way. Yeah. Like, give Bailey anything she wants. Make sure she never leaves. Make sure she's happy. She's the best woman they have on the roster in terms of, like, hitting all the quadrants of being entertaining. She's hilarious. Like, making the bicep curl and then going Team Captain and, like, pointing to it, like, had me laughing every single time. And Natalia, who's been with the company since 1812. And the story of this one was everyone hates Lana and she had to stay in a corner. And eventually everybody on Team Raw and Team SmackDown eliminated each other, and Lana was the sole survivor because the last 2 people got counted out. It was fine. The match was fine. Nobody did. It didn't seem tremendously awkward. There weren't, like, hilariously bad spots that I could point out. Maybe you guys saw something that I didn't. I could watch.
Messed up a surfboard. She did a surfboard like inside out.
Peyton Royce.
Yeah, and like and Natty did it to Peyton, I think, and Peyton just like slipped out.
It was god awful.
Okay, so typical girls match. I could watch Bianca Belair like toss bitches left and right all day long. She's great, and like I said, Bayley's hilarious. But the story of this match was everyone hates Lana because her husband yelled, "Check out my Twitch" on AEW. Bailey, what do you got for me?
Oh man, so I really enjoyed this match because you got to see a lot of, a lot of pairings that really come off good. I mean, there's a lot of talent and a lot of deep talent in that women's roster, and a lot of it is being wasted. The whole dynamic with Lana, you wonder where this end game is going to go. Is she finally going to snap and become like a Missy Hyatt bad girl with the leather and the Rat-a-tan cane coming to the ring and finally just lose her mind? Something is happening here. They're not just this seems more than an established burial of Lana. You know what I mean? So clearly there's an end game. I don't know where it ends up. So Peyton Royce gets a big win over the champion here on this one. Now, what do you think of that? I thought that was a very, very interesting touch, and only to have her just lose via pinfall to who did she end up getting pinned by after?
She got tapped out by Natalia.
Yes, by Natalia of all people, the cat lady who just shows up and just exists in the WWE, and I really don't know. Yeah, she's like the jobber to the stars, Natalia, and to give Peyton Royce a signature win in this match, only to have her tap out to Natalia seems like wasted effort. But I have no complaints about this match. I thought it was a fun little interesting ending where Lana, who's just they're just being mean to her. I mean, it's to the point where they've beaten up on her like way too much. I mean, 9 weeks, and this is like basically the 10th time that they're going to be really mean to her and make her stand out on the ring. It seems a little bit heavy-handed, and you kind of want to get behind her and just have her, finally get her comeuppance against these two idiots, Baszler and Jax. But overall, man, good match, and the women definitely didn't, weren't on the bottom of the pile when it comes to quality of matches in this show.
What you got for me, Sheehan?
Yeah. It was a good match. It was a story-based match for sure. Bianca killed it. Bianca was awesome here. I really bought into, I missed Bayley being eliminated. I just like Seth Rollins at the first match, I missed Bayley being eliminated. So I figured that it was going to come down to like Lana, and then Bayley was going to come back out. And, then we'd see what was going to happen from there. So when they just announced Lana won, it was a little bit anticlimactic for me because I guess I blinked and missed Bayley being, booted from the match. But it was a good match. I liked seeing some of the pairings here. It feels like these matches aren't quite as overdone as many, and the roster is so – it's not quite as deep as like the NXT women's roster, but it's deep. And it feels like we're actually getting some new blood and some new exchanges, which is cool. I don't know where they're going with this Lana thing. I didn't see I only watched like the first 20 minutes of Raw from the other night, but I don't know if they're going to do anything big with her. I don't know if maybe some of this push for her might have been intended for Zelina Vega. I don't know. But it's something, I guess. I still don't want to see her wrestle, which I guess kind of goes against everything they might be trying to do with her. It's like we're going to make her this top babyface, but who wants to watch her wrestle? She's not very good. And
did you say Zelina Vega? Did you say Zelina Vega? She had?
Oh yeah. Whatever money comes from this show is going to go. 20% goes to Vince now, so it's don't worry about it. I'll make sure it happens.
So here's my prediction. I have a prediction. Rumor has it Rhea Ripley's done with NXT and she's being moved to the main roster. So I think Lana is going to get herself a little diesel in Rhea Ripley, and Lana's actually not going to get in the ring, but she's going to have Rhea Ripley basically winning tag team matches. No, winning tag team matches by herself, or like Rhea Ripley tags her in just to do the pin, and this is going to lead to a WrestleMania match between Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley and Lana. And it's going to end with Rhea Ripley doing the Riptide on Nia Jax and then tagging in Lana, and Lana's going to put her foot on Nia Jax, and they're going to win the tag team titles.
I like it.
I do like
write
that.
Write the book. Send that in. It's perfect.
All right. You, intern, you have your story angle for the next couple of months. All right. Lastly, before we get to how the show concluded, which
took 45 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
I think it's still going on.
Big Chief, head of the table, Roman Reigns, taking on Drew McIntyre in a champion versus champion singles match. This went on for about 20 minutes. They did a ref bump. Jey Uso kicked Drew McIntyre in the face, proving his mettle and his worth to Roman Reigns. And then Roman Reigns put Drew McIntyre in the guillotine, and another ref came out and he counted him out, and that was the end of that. And it ended with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns kissing at the top of the ramp.
Isn't that romantic?
It really, kiss and make up. That's what I always say. Sheehan, rather. What did you think of the main event?
Going into this, I remember, I think Triple H did a Q&A or something a couple weeks ago where he was trying to talk about a potential Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre encounter as being like WrestleMania main event worthy. And in fall 2020, no, it's not. But it could be. But now it will never be because they wasted it here. This was a match that had zero stakes. Not for a lack of the guys trying, because they actually did really, really good back and forth on the last couple of episodes of SmackDown, where, even during the contract signing, where Roman, refused to sit down unless Adam Pearce moved from the head of the table. So Roman literally sat at the head of the table while doing the contract signing, which was hilarious.
That's amazing.
And talked a lot of shit about Drew. He's like, hey, you're really good, but, you're only wearing that belt because I didn't want it. He did this great stuff here, which, if given the time and if taken out of the gimmick of we need champion versus champion because it's November, this could have been something. Instead, we wasted it here. Zero stakes, zero interest, nothing on the line except for pride. But when you cheat to win, how prideful can you be? I think the guys killed it. They did really, really well. It's just everything around it sucked. I feel like they're leaving a lot of money on the table, but unfortunately, they will still run this again later on, and it'll be more of the same, and it just won't have the same impact as the match could have had. That said, the match was okay. We were furthering the Uso and Big Chief story, which, that's what they're doing, so that's good. And I guess Drew could take a loss. That's kind of been Drew's gimmick. Since he won the title, is not really doing very well, or needing 4 Hall of Famers to beat a guy. But it was what it was. It was the right match to be the main event here. And poor Drew really needs to work on, if he's going to carry a sword, he needs to work on actually sticking it into the ramp where it stands up and doesn't look like it's going to fall over and injure his foot or something.
I just find Drew McIntyre about as interesting as wallpaper.
What kind of wallpaper?
Beige.
Grandma's?
Yes. I don't know, Bailey. I'm just not into Drew McIntyre, and so he looks great opposite Roman Reigns. They're two big guys. They look like wrestlers. They look like grown men, as Jim Cornette would say. But again, he's a competent wrestler, and he puts on aggressive and violent matches, and everything looks stiff and everything, and it's like when I watch him wrestle, and it's like, okay, you're a good wrestler and you're an entertaining wrestler, but he has no character. He has no personality. Being from Scotland doesn't give you a personality. You're just from Scotland. I just he's not exciting for me to pay attention to, and so I don't. You know what I mean, Billy?
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head. So they have given you no reason to get behind Drew McIntyre. Listen, how many times does the guy just barely squeak a win when he was champion? He hasn't been dominant. He's a huge, massive guy. And yet he's barely squeaking wins against Dirk Ziggler and the boys. You know what I mean? Dirk Ziggler, Jesus. Boogie Nights all over again. But, he hasn't really gone over huge on anybody. He beat Orton on Raw, which looked like they were doing basically a reboot of Drew McIntyre. They gave him the new entrance. They gave him the sword. They gave him the fire, the flames, the codpiece, the whole 9 yards. He looked like a new character. And the first time you get to see him on display in a big-time match, he basically gets tapped out or he passes out. Is this what you do to get people behind your, one of your main draws? It's not. So this was the Roman Reigns, Jey Uso show here. And, Drew McIntyre, or McInfart, as he's known on Raw, is an afterthought. So they really, really, really got to put the heart paddles on this guy to get him interesting. But like you said, okay, I'm from Ireland or from Scotland or wherever the hell the dude is from. And he has such a transition. So he goes from this, warrior walking through the fire to, Casual Joe in the ring telling zingers in the ring on Raw and, talking in his stupid accent. You know what I mean? It just doesn't translate. It's like he's almost two different characters. They've given you no reason to like him, and it is what it is. But anyway, Reigns gets the win. He looks super strong in this match. It advances the storyline, but they were very, very careful, even in the announcing, not to bury Drew. So when Uso came in and gave him the super kick, they even said, they didn't say, Roman Reigns, would have lost this match if it wasn't for Jey Uso. Instead, they said, who knows what would have happened if, Jey Uso, made contact. You know what I mean? Like, they were being very, very careful in not saying that Roman Reigns only won because Jey Uso interfered on his behalf. So there's a little bit of protection going on, but man, they really, really need to make Drew look strong headed into WrestleMania. And they've got a bit of work to do. We've got crappy TLC coming up and a few others. So, Royal Rumble, he really needs to stand out, man. Something needs to happen here.
So couple of my favorite memories of The Undertaker. I loved the Ministry of Darkness. That's probably my favorite iteration of The Undertaker. Mostly because of his walkout music. But like devil worshipping Satan, putting, burning Stephanie McMahon's teddy bear, putting Austin on not the cross, God forbid, the symbol.
The symbol.
Like, I loved all that stuff. I think it really rejuvenated him. I liked his feud with Austin. I know there's SummerSlam matches one they're both kind of embarrassed by, but I was there live. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I never want to hear Highway to Hell again. But talk about overplaying a song. But I really enjoyed the Austin Undertaker Ministry of Darkness era of The Undertaker. I thought everything about it worked for me, and the whole package was great. And then they ruined it by putting him with and then they made the corporate ministry, and of course, like the NWO, it just got diluted and it fell apart.
Yep.
When he came back at the end of the Iron Man match between Triple H and The Rock at Judgment Day as the American Badass, there are a few times in my watching wrestling since, from a kid till a 44-year-old man, that I've marked out like a girl. That was one of them. I was living with my girlfriend and two other people, and I just ran around the house going, "Oh, he's back to pass judgment!"
You were drinking the Kool-Aid there, brother.
I was excited. I know the American Badass character annoyed a lot of people, but I think they sensed the audience needed a break from what The Undertaker had been, and just The Undertaker as like a motorcycle riding, beer drinking badass who, Jim Ross used to say, he'll hit you with them soup bowls, which were his hands. Like, I liked all that. Soup bones, yeah.
I did too.
I liked all that. His ladder match where he nearly killed Jeff Hardy, I thought that was great. Brilliant. It's one of my favorite matches.
Which is, by the way, how you build an opponent up. That is classic textbook working right there. That's what propelled Jeff Hardy over the top.
No doubt.
Seeing him lose to Brock Lesnar, I was as surprised as anybody, and I think I remember like hating the fact that they used the Undertaker streak to put over a guy who didn't need to be put over that way. Like, on the one hand, I bought the argument that who else could beat the Undertaker but Brock Lesnar, and okay, then I never want to see the Undertaker again. And of course, that was WrestleMania 30, and we've had 6 more WrestleManias since then with him in it, and and a variety of other matches where he and Goldberg nearly kill each other in Saudi Arabia, and him and DX and Kane put on an embarrassment in Saudi Arabia, and like if they were gonna end the streak, it should have ended with Brock shoving the Undertaker in a casket in a grave and burying it, and that's the last we see of the Undertaker. And as much as I liked the Boneyard match with AJ Styles, if that's going to be your last match, your very last match ever, and then the next time we see you, you're going to do the worst retirement speech I've ever heard, then it should have ended with AJ Styles putting you in a casket, putting it in the grave, and burying you with a tombstone that says, "Rest in peace, Undertaker." What the humanly fuck are we doing here? You know, like, I get that they wanted to give The Undertaker a big send-off. He's a 30-year veteran of the company. He's the most loyal guy Vince had, and he's all the things. He is the WWE. Like, if not Vince McMahon, the guy that is the WWE is The Undertaker. And I get all that. But to have, like, a bunch of guys come out that he's beaten, and then they all leave, and then he comes out, and he goes, "It's time for The Undertaker to rest in peace." Dude, you fucking did this already. You did it at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. You left your shit in the ring and said bye. What the humanly fuck are we doing? Why was this necessary? You know, like, when you go out as a wrestler, you go out putting somebody else over. He literally walked out. Like, if you strip this down and deconstruct it to what actually happened, a bunch of people walked out, a bunch of people walked back. He walked out, said, "I'm going to go now." And then he walked back, and they showed a hologram of fucking Percy Pringle. That's it. Mm-hmm. This is our last memory of The Undertaker. This is the last time we're going to see him. He's fucking done. Nobody got over. He didn't do anything. And the only emotion I got out of this was kind of like, you know, Vince like, "Aw, The Undertaker's leaving." The one guy who didn't go to WCW, aw. The one guy who didn't get hooked on pills and have to leave and find God for a while, aw. The one guy who didn't marry my daughter, The Undertaker. I love you. I love you, Mark. And then he left. Rant over. I'm getting off my soapbox now. Needless to say, I thought this was pointless. So, and that we've already done the Undertaker going away tour several times over, and nobody's better off for it. Nobody. Not AJ Styles, not Brock Lesnar, not Bray Wyatt. Nobody. Nobody has been.
Is anybody buying it?
Well, I would imagine, like, I mean, if you watch his 4-part The Last Ride special, he apparently is, like, several broken pieces of chalk at this point and can't fucking get it together.
Yep.
Which, God bless him, he's been in some brutal fucking matches, and he's had and like they were saying, like, for a while there was the pattern of do nothing, get surgeries, rehabilitate, recover, get in shape, WrestleMania, go to the hospital, start it all over again. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't want him to wrestle again, believe me. No. But I just thought, like, somebody woke up one morning. It was kind of like the streak. And I really am going to be done after this, and I'll let you guys have the last word. You guys can talk about, like, your memories of The Undertaker, this segment, what you're going to do when this podcast is over. I don't care. But it's like somebody woke up one day and realized that The Undertaker beat Snuka, King Kong Bundy, and Jake the Snake, and was like, holy shit, he has a streak going. We should make a thing out of that. And they did. They've admitted to it. They had no idea they booked an Undertaker winning streak at WrestleMania until, like, somebody looked back and went, holy shit, he beat everybody. Let's make that a bigger thing than it really is. Okay, cool. It's like they were booking the Survivor Series, and they were like, Intercontinental, Bobby Lashley, Sasha Banks, blah, 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 blah. Hey, does anyone know that this is the 30th anniversary of the debut of The Undertaker? It is? Well, let's call up Mark and see what he wants to do for the 30th anniversary. And he was like, I don't want to get out of my chair. Like, well, what if we just said goodbye to you? I did that already. I did it with Roman Reigns. I did it with Brock Lesnar. I've done this now 100 times. How many more goodbyes do you want me to do? I'm not Kiss or Terry Funk. And they're like, well, why don't you just show up and we'll do a big pomp and circumstance and you can say goodbye to the fans. I've said goodbye to the fans. There's money involved.
How much?
Sure. And he toddles off, and he does his thing, and everyone jerks off, and he toddles back, and voila, 30th anniversary of The Undertaker. Bailey, what are we doing here?
All right, Undertaker fans, forgive this man for his clear transgressions against The Undertaker here. There was 2 points in my life where The Undertaker was part of the biggest reaction I've ever seen, and grown men being the most ridiculous I've ever seen them. Hell in the Cell versus Mick Foley. I need not tell you. I was at a pool hall when we had the Hell in the Cell, and poor Mick Foley was being tossed around like a rag doll, and The Undertaker was dominant. I mean, I've seen a building shake, but I've never seen anything like that when.
Hang on, the best part of that, the best part of that is not Mick Foley being hip tossed off the cage, and onto his head. The best part of that is when they shot the Undertaker's face, and he's clearly thinking, "I've murdered a man."
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely. he honestly thought he committed homicide there on that particular thing. The second time, I'm glad you brought it up because it was Judgment Day. Now, I was at a restaurant in Canada called Don Cherry's, named after a famous hockey announcer. The place, when I say that I've seen men hug each other and become like super emotional, when The Undertaker came out, people at the bar hugged each other. Glasses dropped to the floor. It was a party atmosphere. It was unbelievable. You could not hear yourself think. And like you said, I was almost crying, like, "Oh my God, this is so great! Look at him, he's passing judgment." I was all in, exactly like you were. I mean, unbelievable. Now, I got to agree with you. Is this the way you put The Undertaker out of commission? No. I mean, they basically did it at WrestleMania 33 versus Roman Reigns with the whole hat thing and all that stuff. You're at Survivor Series. You knock a guy off a team. You have a mystery guy. The fucking bell rings. Brother Love comes out. You go full circle. Undertaker wipes him out, stands in the ring, says his goodbye. Lightning strikes. He's done. That's your finish. But, of course, you couldn't do that. You brought him out with this super awkward collection of talent. I mean, you had the Godwins out there who most people don't associate with The Undertaker. But, if you know your WWE lore, you know that he was one of their best friends with the Godfather. I mean, the Godwins, the Godfather, and the Undertaker were their own. What was it, the Boneyard Crew or something?
Yeah,
I think they were called. You had like all the old timers out there, and then they just disappeared. And Vince McMahon came in the ring, and he had a speech. And boy, I don't know what's going on with Vince's jaws, but he can't seem to catch his wind to talk anymore. I mean, he's
like
really out of gas. But anyway. Taker comes out, and like you said, he delivers this almost uninspired promo to nobody, to a bunch of video monitors, and it just didn't feel good. And it didn't feel like the ending that this guy deserved for the end of his career. I mean, just imagine, you work at a place for, 100 years, and your finish, your end in the company, you walk into an empty room with a TV on the wall with, some fat guy, showing a jihad video from Iran. You know what I mean? I don't know. I knew that would catch you. I got you. People at home, it's true. But yeah. So I will say I really did enjoy the Undertaker's run. I remember that first appearance, man. Watching him come unglued and knocking Dusty Rhodes out of that match, and man, I was enthralled. I was all in. I got to see him many times live, and. While I would never wear the Undertaker shirt or, he was not my favorite wrestler, he was always there. And, he always meant something. And his appearances were always special. So sad to see him go, but it's time. And I just wish it was a little bit better, not in front of nobody. So there you go.
Question. Do we know what it sounds like inside the Thunderdome? Is it
there's
silent?
no sound. It's all pre-production. There's
everything is
no
post,
sound.
right?
All
like the thank you Taker, clap, 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 clap. That's After Effects, right? That's
from WrestleMania 33, just drummed in.
So Taker's literally standing in silence, right?
Yep.
Outside of his music. When his music ends, he's standing there in silence, waiting for a cue, because they have this thing planned out to where, okay, we're going to have the fake fans chant for 38 seconds, and then we'll point to you and you start your speech.
Yep.
This feels so goddamn stupid.
Yeah.
I understand the symmetry, right? I mean, the 30 years, they got to make it a big deal. They should have held off on this until they could have fans back in the arena. I mean,
100%.
Not only for just out of respect for Calloway and everything he's done, but think about. I mean, they're still using footage from when he lost the streak back 6 years ago, right? They're still using the footage of the crowd being in shock to this day, and they'll continue to into the future. Could you imagine grown men crying, people just bawling their eyes out at the Undertaker's last stand, literally saying goodbye for the final time?
Yeah,
that's just an opportunity that they rushed to do this because of the symmetry of the 30-year deal. And maybe his contract's coming up. Maybe he's just like, okay, you got all my out of kayfabe crap, you got everything, just get me the hell out of here. Just however they could do it. I felt like this was just really bad. I kept thinking, and this is just my own naivete, I guess, but I kept thinking that this was going to lead to an angle. Because he went up on the stage when he was done, and he stood there for a while.
There was no Bray Wyatt on the show. Where was Bray Wyatt? I think it was one of you guys or somebody else who was like, this has got to end with, The Undertaker bestowing Bray Wyatt with magic powers, right?
Someone, pass the torch.
Because I kept waiting because he's there in front of the monitor, the big Tron, and you see the moon there, and there's clouds going past the moon, and I'm like, one of those times the cloud's gonna go past, and we're gonna see a fucking scorpion on there or something. It's gotta be something, right? There's gotta be
that would have been wicked.
Right? It's they gotta get to one more WrestleMania where they can be okay, done. Okay, he's in front of people, hopefully, and we can actually do this the right way. And he can maybe put somebody over. I mean, Sting ain't a guy he needs to be putting over, but it's a match that a lot of people want to see. I just thought that this was a huge disservice. And my brother-in-law was watching this with me, and I think he had the line of the night when Jeff Hardy came out. And he's in his face paint and everything, and he's there among all the legends and stuff. And he said that Jeff Hardy looks like if you're playing a video game and you make a create a character, and then you see them in a cutscene, because he looked so damn ridiculous. He's there next to all these people, and he's got this weird paint on, and he's just in his hoodie. It looked like a create a wrestler or a create a character in a role playing game or something, and That lightened the mood for me quite a bit, but this thing went too damn long. I thought it was cool to see Savio Vega again, our mystery opponent. It's just a shame he almost dropped his Puerto Rican flag on the way to the ring, but I feel like the people they had there were not the people I would expect. I figured, okay, when I heard the Godwin's music, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Godfather, okay, sure, whatever. Then it's Kevin Nash. Oh, okay.
They wrestled at WrestleMania 12 together.
Yeah, it's they wrestled, but it's I'm thinking back to the Ric Flair farewell. It wasn't just hey Rick, you wrestled this one guy on WCW Saturday Night or on Starrcade, whatever the hell. Here he is. You've never seen the guy since, but here he is. He wants to say goodbye. I feel
hey Rick, we dragged up the rotting corpse of the Renegade.
There you go. We've got 14 Armstrongs. We think you wrestled 2 of them, so here you go. But it just seemed
terrible,
very, very weird.
Our last few shows haven't offended people. I'm trying to make up for that.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like there were omissions there too. There was no Farouk, no Ron Simmons. He wasn't there. I don't know how dicey things are with Hogan, but Hogan wasn't there. Bruce Pritchard didn't come out. He was backstage. Why didn't he come out? Even in the Brother Love gimmick. Exactly. Ted DiBiase, the guy who introduced him the first time, they couldn't get him there? I'm pretty sure he lives in Florida. It just feels like they left a lot of people out who should have been there, and they added a few people that I really didn't see much of a point of having, just other than to get the pop of a non-existing crowd. But
Tell me you wouldn't have popped at home if he was a mystery man though and came out and did the final KO.
If they did something where just as you said here, one guy on one of the teams is injured, he's out, he's knocked out. Then all of a sudden the $1 Million Man's music starts. He comes out and he goes, "I'm here to introduce a mystery opponent." Boom, it's Undertaker. He comes out with Brother Love. Perfect symmetry if they're going for symmetry.
Full circle.
Can I again propose that the final match of the night should have been The Undertaker putting over Bray Wyatt, and coming out with the urn and everything else. And at the end of the night, the last thing you see before fade to black is Alexa Bliss holding the urn with Bray Wyatt doing the Undertaker kneel and pose to it.
Oh,
like,
man.
Hell yeah.
have Bray
So good.
Wyatt beat the Undertaker,
something, yeah.
you know, fair and square in the middle of the ring, you know, and then like flash of lightning, the Undertaker's body fucking disappears, and then there's Alexa Bliss holding the urn with Bray Wyatt, like, you know, doing the pose, and that's it. You've now made Bray Wyatt the new Undertaker. Alexa Bliss is the new Paul Bearer, because what the fuck else is she going to do at this point?
No,
yeah,
man, you make
have
Drew
her-
McIntyre the new Undertaker, bro. If you're doing anyone to replace the Undertaker, it's McIntyre. Make him the dead swordsman. Like, holy shit, that's money in the bank. I'm not even joking. Can you imagine a guy that looks like that with, like, white eyes coming to the ring with lightning and that fucking sword? I'm telling you, money in the bank. Pay me now.
Okay,
You
but
give him the
meanwhile,
Triple H Terminator help.
Bray Wyatt for the last few years has been doing this, you know, Fiend, and then before that he was a weirdo anyway. So like, it just seems that when the opportunity to make a new guy comes up, they're very gun shy, and they're like, no, let's not make any one guy better than the rest of the roster. The appeal should be the brand and a bunch of interchangeable parts, not any one Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior or Ric Flair or Undertaker or Steve Austin or The Rock. We don't want that. We want that same level of enthusiasm for the brand WWE, and to a lesser extent for the brand SmackDown and Raw. And then everybody else we can just kind of move around as, you know, as necessary, which makes the product really bland and boring.
Totally.
And again, they missed out on an opportunity. Like, I have made fun of Bray Wyatt. By the way, my favorite memory of doing this podcast for this year is me and Chris talking about a feud between Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, but they're doing bits from Grease.
That was classic.
It gave us chills, and they're multiplying.
I was losing control. I told everybody. Anyway, like, so
Tell me more.
I'm obviously.
Okay,
Would she put up a fight? I'm obviously not the biggest Bray Wyatt fan, but when I see an opportunity to make him a bigger star than the fat juggalo that he currently is, you know, and I'm old school. Like, the Undertaker should have the last thing the Undertaker should have done is put over another guy and go out on his back. Like, this just seemed gratuitously unnecessary, you know. And I've watched it twice now, because I watched it Sunday night, and I was kind of
You could fit that in between then and now.
yeah. I was dozing in and out of it, and I'm like, I got to watch this again. And so I watched it this morning, and again I'm like, what was the point of any of this? This was just like a 20-minute segment that just nothing happened. It did nothing, and yeah, I'm. Chris,
Vince said WWF.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, there's that.
There's an angry somewhere out there. There's an angry panda.
Angry Panda.
All right.
No, he more or less said, WWF.
You look like an animated mummy.
I love
oh my
you, Mark.
God, the jowls on that guy and the breathing. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So anyway, Survivor Series. It was, you know, we've actually done a run of pretty good reviews for shows, going all the way back to SummerSlam, where it's like, hey, these have been really good. These have been solid. This one, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good.
It was just pointless.
Kind of thumbs in the middle for me. It was just a show. I could have taken it or leave it. You know, Chris, you said it was pointless. Bailey, any last thoughts on this show?
I thought it was a little bit better than a standard show. I mean, you had a few elements there. I mean, you did have the Undertaker's retirement, good or bad, depending on how you present it. You know, you had a couple takeaway matches. I mean, that Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre match was just, you know, it was an excellent match. I'll be honest. And I'm a fan of the classic Survivor Series matches, so I had a good time overall. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up at the end of the day.
All right, you do that. All right. So the next time we are all getting together will be for NXT Takeover. Is War Games. It's going to be Pat McAfee's crew versus the Undisputed Era. That takes place on December 6th, and we'll talk about it on December 8th. And then we'll be back again. TLC. Yes. TLC is on December 20th, and we'll talk about it on December 22nd. Still no date for the Royal Rumble as of yet, but we do have a date for AEW, and that's going to be... Ooh. When is that?
Whenever it is, Mark, it's a great time.
Yeah, here we go. It's going to be Saturday night, February 27th, and Chris Bailey and I, because we have not yet twisted Chris Sheehan's arm into watching AEW.
You got to do it, Sheehan. You got to break your virginal hymen.
Check out my Twitch. I'm 18 years old. Check out my Twitch.
So we'll talk about that on March
Twitch,
2nd.
Boys. We haven't touched Twitch. We got to take over Twitch and ruin that franchise too.
I don't have any Minnie Mouse T-shirts. All right, folks. Bailey, go ahead and plug your things.
Oh my God! So we got Superblog team up coming up in December. So I'm going to make the announcement. So it's actually going to be a split Superblog team up. We're doing it in 2 teams, double launches, 2 different days. It's going to be Superblog Team Up Red, Superblog Team Up Gold. We're tackling What If and Creator. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes with that. And that's what I got going on. Plus, Mike Tyson, baby. The fight of the century is coming up.
Yeah, Saturday night, November 28th, myself and Chris Bailey will be doing alternative commentary for Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. I'm very excited about this. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Me too. All right, Mr. X-Laps, do your thing.
Did Mike Tyson ever get his win back from Little Mac?
Don't you besmirch Mike Tyson.
Times at the Bailey house.
Don't you besmirch Mike Tyson in my presence, sir. That man was a hero when I was in elementary school.
Rounds. I could never knock him out, but
nope. 3 rounds had to be.
Yep. You just got to get 5,000 points and you get the TKO. But what am I doing? Oh yes, X-Lapsed just about every single day on the Chris and Reggie channel. You could find stuff from me at chrisisoninfiniteearth.com. Also, xlapsed.chrisisoninfiniteearth.com, because I figured out that I can actually have subdomains on the main domain.
Whoa!
And who'd have thunk it? But that's a thing. And chrisandreggie.podbean.com. You can find a whole lot of talking about X-Men books right now. And what else? Ace Comics on Twitter. That's me.
He's also a big part of the Source Material live podcast. He's picked a whole bunch of books this month. He got to pick Starman. He picked the Doom Patrol. And tonight, as a matter of fact, he and I will be talking about Marvel. And then next week, we're doing...
Have you read it?
No, that's what I'm going to do that this afternoon.
Okay, it's a weird one.
I read the Wikipedia entry on it. I'm very excited. Worst comic ever. And then we close out Chris Sheehan month here on Source Material Live with Jeffrey Dahmer, an unauthorized biography. So,
oh my,
yes, sir.
And actually, just yesterday I was at a record store, and I found another comic from Hart Fisher who wrote that Jeffrey Dahmer piece, and it was actually signed by him. And they only wanted $1 for it because they didn't realize that it was signed, or gave half a shit that it was signed. But it was the the notable Hart Fisher piece that was entitled "Rush Limbaugh Must Die."
Ooh.
So,
all right, we need to talk more about this next week then.
We will. We will indeed. And it is signed by him, and got it for $1, and it's nice to have a Hart Fisher SIG in my house.
Can I just say that I'm enjoying the Sheehan era picks of the Source Material Live? Can I just put my vote in for that?
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's really good. Really good, Mark. Hint, hint. There's no animals in Baghdad. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right, folks. We hope you've been insulted by this iteration of our review of Survivor Series 2020. Thank you for listening to TV Party Tonight. For the Podsmen, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.